Now, we will talk about partnerships. What I mentioned before, it was kind of like the B2B approach for inbound and outbound. If you have a B2C, you won't be writing the messages for each one of your potential customers. You can leverage different tools, but the concepts are the same, which means you have to have a clear ICP. You need to understand how to approach them, how to do the follow-ups, and this could be done by sequence or any tool. But in general, the principles are the same. Understand who you're talking to, whether it's a company or a person. Why? Because even in a B2B, you have to talk to somebody. So you need to understand who are you talking to. In B2C, you need to understand who you're talking to, and then you have 10,000 people that you need to do it. Of course, in that matter, you can use tools that will leverage that, but the concepts are the same. But in B2C, you can use the same principles that I just mentioned for partnerships. Why? Because even if you're a B2B or a B2C, you will need to do some partnerships in order to do scale. And these partnerships could be that they will help you to sell your product. This could be that they will put your product next to them because that will make a better mix to get customers, and many others. If you're in the service arena, this could be just as simple as they will try to resell your products, they will try to mix your products with them or mix your services with them, and you need to understand how to manage that. And this goes to a couple of lessons that I learned. Like, first of all, be clear of what type of partner do you want, meaning that if there is not a good mix or a good benefit for both of you, it will never happen. If you do not complement, most likely it won't happen. So you need to learn how to choose them, because again, partnerships could be many. The question is like who you want to work with. And this goes against to kind of like principle of culture. Do you share the same values? Do you share the same purposes? If you do, it's kind of like one less issue. It doesn't mean that you will be successful. But going more into the issues of the partnerships is kind of like the financial piece, which means if somebody's helping you to sell a B2C lead or a B2B lead, if you close them, what's the level of effort in their partnership? Meaning that they just give you the connection, they close it for you, they help you to close it. So there are many questions that you need to be careful of answering before moving to the phase of like, let's do it. How we work with them, like with the partnerships, just because you need to be very careful before you start moving into the financial piece. Otherwise, you will end up kind of like having a partner, because if they ask you, for example, for 15% of all your customers that they bring you for a lifetime, you're basically having a partner that you might accept at the beginning just because you're scaling. And remember, all the partnerships won't last perhaps for good. You have partnerships depending on the maturity. So at the beginning, you might be accepting 15% commission on new clients. That's because you need the clients. Eventually, as you grow and you have your sales force or your own team, you might be replacing that because that 15% is too high and it will eat your margin, especially with your overhead. So at the beginning, you may accept. Later on, you might be redefine those partnerships, but be careful of many things. Like, for example, is this partnership is based on a level of engagement of the partner? It's going to be 3% if you just make the intro, 5% if you just help it to close, 10% if you help them to scale that business. And you might say, great, those percentages are fine, but what happened with the duration of that commission, meaning that commission is for 3 months, for 6 months, for new business, for new revenue, for renewals. So all these tiny things you need to be very careful and put on paper, otherwise you will losing money. For me, the best approach is saying, hey, we have 3 categories of fees for this amount of time, and if you help me to renew, I'll pay you more. If it's B2C, it's a little bit different, just because in that matter, you won't be talking about each customer. You might be talking about perhaps a source of a campaign or perhaps something that will allow you to scale in that matter. So that's kind of how you need to work with partnerships. And again, this evolves in time. Partnerships are not always last in the same way, or they evolve, or perhaps you don't need them. And when you're big enough, you don't need them because you have your own team. So just remember at the end, you need to have your numbers really clear. Otherwise, you will be missing revenue like it happens to me. So careful with that.